Done.
I want to go back to the end of Parsha Shmos and the beginning of last week's Parsha Vayero. It's a very important limud in how to handle difficult times. When people get hit with tragedies, adversities, setbacks, and they don't understand it, how are we supposed to approach it? How are we supposed to handle it? Moshe Rabbeinu was told by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, go to Paro and tell him, let my people go. He's not going to listen to you, but you're going to bring the Gula. So Moshe Rabbeinu thought that the Makkos would start right away. He would go to Paro, the Makkos would start right away, and the whole series of events would happen, and Klal Yisrael would be released from their bondage. But it didn't happen like that. Moshe Rabbeinu went to Paro. He said, Hashem said, let my people go. And Paro said, I don't know who this Hashem is. Who is this? I don't know who he is. Why are these Israelis, these Israelites, these Hebrews, why are they asking to go? They're weak. They have time on their hands. Bring on more labor. Don't give them straw anymore. They have to make the bricks. Don't give them straw. Then they'll have no time on their hands. They won't have time to think about how to get out of Egypt. And it got worse. And the Shaitrim were getting whipped by the taskmasters. Why aren't you making enough bricks? And Moshe and Aaron came to Paro, and they met the taskmasters, and they complained. Ever since you came, you promised us that you're going to bring the Gula, and ever since you came, it just got worse. And you gave us a bad name in the eyes of Paro, and we're suffering. And Moshe Rabbeinu, he loved Klal Yisrael. He was a leader who had a tremendous amount of rachamim. And he went back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and he says, from the time, as soon as I went to Paro, and I spoke in your name, Hashem, things got bad for them, and you didn't save them. Lama hara'oisa la'am hazeh, lama zeh shalachtani. Why have you done evil? Why have you done bad to this people? Why did you send me to be the shliach that brings bad to the people? Now we understand. You can understand Moshe Rabbeinu's anguish at that he was the agent that was making things worse for. Kadosh Baruch Hu told him he was going to save Klal Yisrael, and as soon as he got there, things got worse. He felt terrible. But we find at the beginning then Kadosh Baruch Hu answered him. Right away, Kadosh Baruch Hu answered him. Vayomer Hashem el Moshe, Ato tire asher esel Paro. Now you're going to see what I'm going to do to Paro. Ki biyad chazaki I'm going to send you out. Biyad chazaki yishalchem. Biyad chazaki, by my strong hand, he's going to send you out. He's going to expel you, expel all the Hebrews from Egypt. He's going to try to get rid of them. So the Chazal Darshan, Ato, now you're going to see the Gula. Now you're going to see the Klal Yisrael get out. of Mitzrayim. But when they get into Eretz Canaan, Eretz Yisrael, and they have the battles with the 7 nations, that you're not going to see because you're not going to be around anymore. You're going to pass away. You're not going to see that. Yeshua is going to be the one who brings them into Eretz Yisrael. So it's already nigzar on Moshe Rabbeinu right now that he's not going into Eretz Yisrael.
As a punishment? Because he had a tinus?
The simple understanding is yes, it's a punishment because he had tinus. He wasn't on. You could say he wasn't on the Madrega. He wasn't like Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. The Orach Chaim has a different take on it. That Klal Yisrael wasn't on the Madrega. It was a punishment. But that's a limud in itself. Exactly what it is. He had definitely said something wasn't proper. Kosh Baruch had a taina on him. And we see that Kosh Baruch had a taina on him because right at the beginning of Vayera, right after this, Vayedaber Elokim El Moshe Vayomer Elov Ani Hashem. Kosh Baruch now explains his taina. Vayedaber Elokim. First of all, we know that the word Vayedaber is always used as a harsh lashon. If a Kadosh Baruch Hu is speaking softly, he uses the word Vayomer. When a Kadosh Baruch Hu is upset and speaking Toichacha, he speaks harshly, he says Vayedaber. And this is brought out, emphasized by, he uses his name. We discussed last time, Hashem has 2 basic names, Yud Kei Vav Kei, Hashem, and Elokim. Yud Kei Vav Kei is Rachamim, and Elokim is Midas Hadin. Vayedaber Elokim, Midas Hadin. The characteristic of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, strict judgment. So Elokim spoke to Moshe. Vayomer Elov Ani Hashem, I am Hashem. Now, this pasuk doesn't make too much sense to us. Elokim spoke to Moshe and he says, I am Hashem. Then he continues, Vayera, I appeared to Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Bekel Shakai, Yushmi Hashem lo nadati lahem. What's Kadosh Baruch Hu saying over here? So the Medrash explains, Kadosh Baruch Hu was complaining to Moshe Rabbeinu, and he says, "Oi, they don't make them like they used to. I remember Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and I put them through difficult times, and they had nisyanis. We know that Avram Avinu had 10 nisyanis, and they never complained. Not only did they not complain, Amalek Kodesh Baruch Hu said to Moshe Rabbeinu, Chaval al di'abdin, Chaval on what we don't have anymore. V'lo mishtacha, we can't find people of the caliber of Avram Avinu and the Ovos. Harbe pamim negleis. How many times I appeared to them and I gave them difficulties. Below here, and they never, it's in the Medrash. Below here, achar midoisai. Not only did they not complain, they didn't have any bad thoughts about what I'm doing, what I'm accomplishing. They didn't have any doubts. V'lo hiror, they didn't have in the backs of the minds. The person could be quiet, but he's upset and he's questioning. They didn't even question in the back of their minds. No, he asked. And the Gemara in the dorm says that was Lamant, B'matei does. No, it wasn't a complaint. That wasn't a complaint. He says, how am I going to know that what you promised me is going to occur? Nothing had happened yet. But it was Kosh Baruch Hu was promising something which is L'mayla min hateva. He was not able to have kids. And Kosh Baruch Hu was promising you're going to have children and they're going to inherit the land. But ma'eda. And also the Gemara, that's not so simple because Gemara in the Dorm says the Shibud Mitzrayim happened because that was a pagam in his Amunah. But that's not our topic. It wasn't a complaint about something that had happened to him. What had happened to him, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, his Lech Lecha, go, Lech Lecha me'artzecha, go to Eretz Canaan, v'gad l'shemecha v'erachacha, I'm going to give you a bracha. And he went to Eretz Canaan, and all of a sudden he got hit with a famine, and he had to run down to Mitzrayim, and Mitzrayim he had sores because his wife was abducted, and it was a terrible experience. And he never complained. But you promised me to come. You're going to give me Eretz Canaan, and now you're throwing me out, and this is a famine. He didn't complain. He didn't even have a hero against Kodesh Baruch Hu. He promised Moshe Rabbeinu, this land is yours. You're going to inherit this land. And his wife passed away, and he didn't own any parcel of property, and he had to pay through the nose to buy a burial plot for his wife. Tremendous, outrageous price he had to pay. And he never complained. That was Avraham Avinu. He never complained. And here's Moshe Rabbeinu who's complaining. Moshe Rabbeinu is complaining. So, we could say that there's a difference. Avram Avinu never complained about things that happened to him. Personal things that happened in his life, he never complained about. But Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't complaining about things that had happened to him. He was complaining about the tzoros that Klal Yisrael had. Klal Yisrael was having tzoros. They were suffering from the avoda. And that's the job of a leader. The job of a leader is to worry about his flock. So why doesn't he have a right to complain? So the Sfarim say, there's a Sefer Darkei Musar, Yisrael Naiman from Or Yisrael. He says, he brings from the Chafetz Chaim, a leader has a right to complain. A leader has to worry about his flock, about the people that are underneath him. That should be his prime concern. But don't say it's bad. The taina on Moshe Rabbeinu was Lama hara'osim la'am hazeh. It's bad. Chafetz Chaim says you're allowed to say it's bitter. You're allowed to say it's marly, it's it's bitter. It's a bitter pill to swallow. But to say it's bad, Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't do any bad. Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't do any bad. But it was terrible. Now let's understand. They had been given the job of everybody had to make 600 bricks a day. They know it says Perach. They had a Avodas Perach. Perach, and Perach is mentioned twice. The Avodas Perach is mentioned twice, and the Gematria of Perach is 300. So it's twice. So there's 600 bricks every person had to make a day. And if you didn't reach your quota, they would take a baby and put it into the wall to fill up the quota. Now, because of Moshe Rabbeinu, They took away, they said, okay, let them work harder. They should not have any time on their hands. Let them work harder, and let's not give them any straw. So they didn't have any straw. They had to now hunt the whole Mitzrayim for straw. Not only did they have to make 600 bricks a day, that each person had to find the straw to make those 600 bricks. It was an impossible situation. An impossible situation. And everybody's, if you can imagine, this is what part of Paro's plan, to create strife among the Klal Yisrael, because you have 100 people going into a field looking for some straw. I found it first. No, I found it first, and they're fighting over the straw. And there's going to be machlokes and strife, and everybody's fighting, and they don't have enough straw, and they have tainas on Moshe Rabbeinu. Now, if they don't make it, they're not making the bricks, and the babies, even more babies, are getting put into the wall, into the walls of Ramses. It was a terrible situation, and Moshe Rabbeinu complained, "Lama reisim, lama zeh." So the Medrash explains, we think this is bad. Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't do any bad. Kol di'avad v'achmanu l'tav ovid. Everything that Kadosh Baruch Hu does is good. Kadosh Baruch Hu had a cheshbon. Why this had to happen? Nothing bad comes from a Kadosh Baruch Hu. There had been a gezerah from the time Bris Ben Besarim, from Avram Avinu, on Klal Yisrael, that they had to be enslaved for 400 years. Now we know that this is only 210 years, this time period when Moshe came was only 210 years after they went down to Mitzrayim. How do we know that? Well, we know that Yocheved was born, it says Bein Mitzrayim. She was born as they're going, Yocheved was born to Levi as they were going down into Mitzrayim. So they got into Mitzrayim, that was when Yocheved was born. Ramban brings down, the Midrashim bring down, the Gemara brings down, that Yocheved was 130 years old when she had Moshe Rabbeinu. It's the Gemara in Saita. Now, at this point, when Moshe is coming to his shlichus of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he's 80 years old. 130 and 80 is 210. It's only 210 years. They're missing 190 years. They're missing 190 years. And this is the reason that Dosan Aviram constantly were complaining against Moshe Rabbeinu. It says, you're too early. It's very nice. It's too early. You took us out too early. That's why Hashem is not with us. It says, Ein Hashem b'kirbeinu. What do you mean, Ein Hashem b'kirbeinu? They saw all the makas, they saw all the things, but it was too early. So they had complaints, it can't be. And the Malach, when we get to Kriyas Yamsuf, the Malach, Uzzah, the Malach of the Yam, had a taina on the Kodesh Baruch Hu. It's not 400. You promised me, the Malach of Mitzrayim says, you promised me I'm going to hold on to these Hebrews for 400 years. It's only where's the other 190? You're 190 years early.
With the rest.
He wanted the rest. He wanted the other 190 years. So there's a concept, as you know, in business. If you hire somebody and you ask them to work overtime, you have to pay him a lot more for overtime.
I don't understand, Rabbi. What are you saying? I've never heard this before.
You know, there's something called what's it called? Time and a half. You get time and a half if you for overtime.
It's only for taking those nights, or who we?
After we charge after the first hour.
Kadosh Baruch Hu piled on. How many years was the shibud made impossible, made difficult? We know that we learned that we make a cheshbon. It was Moshe Rabbeinu was thrown into the. It was from the time Miriam was born. It's the time that Miriam was born that the shibud became difficult, and they started making gezeras against the Yidden. Miriam was 6 years older than Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe now was 80 years old, so it was 86 years that they had a shibud underneath the Mitzrim. Moshe Rabbeinu was thrown into was the time of when they were thrown into the water. That was Moshe Rabbeinu was born, and then the Yocheved kept him for 3 months, and then with the little teva. So it was about 86 years. The Chazal bring down the cheshbon of 86 years was the shibud. Now 86 times 2 is close to 190. 192. So it was double time. The fact that they had a shibud and work was piled on harder and things got more difficult, so the Kodesh Baruch Hu was able to cut the 190 years off of the 400 years, and now we got 210 years. It's now time for the Gula. The Hebrews, the Yisraelim, the Klal Yisrael, were complaining. Why you're making things difficult for us? HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to them, if you make a cheshbon, if they had to stay for till to the end of the 400 years, these people who were working now back-breaking work, and things were getting more difficult, they would have died in Mitzrayim. Their children would have died in Mitzrayim. And only their grandchildren maybe would have gotten out. Kadosh Baruch Hu made it that they worked hard and they were zeicha to see the Yetzias Mitzrayim and stand at Har Sinai and Makabel the Torah. So the amount of work that they did was in their benefit. So what do you mean Lama Reis and Lama Zeh? What I did, Kadosh Baruch Hu is saying, what I just did was for the best thing that could have been done for them. It's hard, it's difficult, but now they're going to get out. Not their grandchildren, they themselves are going to get out because they worked harder. So we see that many times what we look at as a terrible situation is really the best benefit for the person. Are you complaining, what about the babies? The babies were being thrown into the wall. The Egyptians were using the babies instead of bricks. So the Chazal tell us they wouldn't have been good anyway. These neshamas were damaged neshamas. How do you know? Moshe Rabbeinu had a taina. You see terrible things. They're killing babies. It's babycide, whatever, infanticide, infanticide, whatever they call it.
Yeah, they call it abortion.
Yeah.
Can't use that word on YouTube.
They were killing babies. Moshe Rabbeinu, his heart went out for them. Kadosh Baruch Hu says, believe me, it's okay. You don't understand. No, I don't understand. So he let Moshe Rabbeinu take one baby out. His name was Micha. Why was his name Micha? Because it was moch. He had been squashed into the wall. So Kadosh Baruch Hu allowed Moshe Rabbeinu to take one baby out, and he became Micha. And this is the Pesel Micha. At the time of Yetzias Mitzrayim, the Yam wanted, it says, the Hayam was Omer Aleim Choyma. The Yam was a Choyma, was a wall, but it's missing a vav. The word Choyma is missing a vav. It's Chema, wrath, because the Yam had wrath on Klal Yisrael. Didn't want Klal Yisrael to pass through because Micha with his pesel was passing through, and the Yam wanted to drown all of Klal Yisrael, and Kadosh Baruch Hu wouldn't let it, all because of Micha. And we had source later on with the pesel Micha in Eretz Yisrael. These neshamas were damaged neshamas. They wouldn't have been good anyway. So you don't understand what's happening. So Kadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe Rabbeinu, and this explains what Kadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe Rabbeinu. You said, Lama hareisali, v'yadaber Elokim, El Moshe, Elokim, Lashon Midas Hadin, spoke to Moshe, Vayomer elav ani Hashem. What you look and see as midas hadin is really in that midas hadin is really midas harachamim. There's midas hadin is rachamim. It's the biggest rachamim. Kadosh Baruch Hu is only rachamim. The Chavos Halavav says, if we understood, we have to understand HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves Klal Yisrael. He loves us more than we love ourselves. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to do good for us more than we can imagine to do for ourselves. It says it with Shmona Esrei, HaGomel Chasodim Toivim. Whatever HaKadosh Baruch Hu does to us is Gomel, he's Gomel Chasodim. What kind of Chasodim? Chasodim Toivim. Everything HaKadosh Baruch Hu does is good. What it looks like bad. There's no such thing as bad. There's only good. Ultimately, it's good.
Rabbi, just to be clear, we're allowed to say things are bitter. We're allowed to say things are terrible. We're never allowed to say things are bad because that's a Taina on Hashem.
That's the Chofetz Chaim, yes. It's
So
bitter.
I could say, okay,
We-
it's a bitter situation in Gaza. It's not a bad situation in Gaza because
We don't
It's the best you
understand. We
understand.
don't understand how ultimately it would be good. Somehow or other, Kadosh Baruch Hu has a plan, and this is going to be bring about the Gula. How? We don't understand. We don't understand. We had the Holocaust. We had the Holocaust. One of the giants that came out of the Holocaust was the Tzanzer Rov, the Tzanzer Rebbe,
Klausenberg.
the Kloisenberger Rebbe, the Divrei Yotzev. The Kloisenberger Rebbe, he lost 11 children and his wife to the Nazis. He used to say, I'm more than Rabbi Yochanan. Ich bin mehr from Rabbi Yochanan. What do I mean I'm more than Rabbi Yochanan? Rabbi Yochanan lost 10 children. He used to go around with a little bone of his 10th child that had fallen into the cauldron of boiling hot water and disintegrated into just the bones. So he took one bone from his 10th child that he had lost, and he used to walk around with it.
Tumas and me? Okay.
They asked the kasha. Okay, that's not. I'm not here to answer that kasha. It was maybe it was
No quantum around. No quantum around.
whatever. Maybe it was a tooth. But he says Dana Siri beer. This is the bone of my 10th child that I lost. He says so. Kloisenberger said I lost 11. So I'm more than Rabbi Yochanan. His Talmud is Usher Weiss, you know, the Pesach. So he's the Talmud of the Kloisenberger Rebbe. His father was in Auschwitz together with and also the camps with the Kloisenberger Rebbe. So Usher Weiss asked the Kloisenberger, how did you manage? How did you survive? So the Rebbe said, and he said this many times. It says, Shema Yisrael, Shem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. What do we say? What's the motto of a Jew when things go bad? Shema Yisrael. Listen, you Jew. Yisrael, listen. Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, Midas Harachamim. Elokeinu. That's Midas Hadin. Whenever you see Midas Hadin, you should have to look for the Midas Harachamim. Hashem Echad, there's only Midas Harachamim. Ultimately, everything is Midas Harachamim. Now, can you see that? No. So what do? We put our hands over our eyes and we close our eyes. I don't see it, but I proclaim it and I believe it. And that's what we do. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. I see bitter things, it looks bad. But ultimately it's good. How could things that are bad ultimately be good? Well, we just explained that the Yisraelim that were under the Shibud, they were given a chance now that they were able to get out and see Yetzias Mitzrayim and be Makabel Torah and Har Sinai instead of having to wait for their grandchildren to get out of Klal Yisrael. That the Shibud was cut down from 400 years to 210 years. 190 years were chopped off because of their hard work. So it was the best thing for them. Rav Nissen Gaon, he was the time of the Goinim. The Goinim lived after the closing of the Talmud, before the Rishonim. So this goes back, this is way, way, way before the Rishonim. And it brings a Medrash, Yeshua ben Levi. He asked the Kadosh Baruch Hu, show me your ways. I don't understand. Why is it tzaddik v'ralo? This is something people are grappling with forever. Why is it tzaddik and bad things happen to him? Why is it Russia and his mom is prospering? Why? People have been grappling with this. It bothers everybody from the beginning of time until today. Yeshua ben Levi, he asked the Kadosh Baruch Hu, explain to me. Now we can ask a kasha on Yeshua ben Levi. We don't understand Yeshua ben Levi. You don't know that in Kisisa, when Kadosh Baruch Hu put Moshe Rabbeinu asked the kasha. He put him and said, show me your ways. B'chanoisi has to say, I said, I give chen to those who I want to. This is something you can't understand. Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to know, why is it tzaddik v'ralo and a Rosh v'tovlo? Kadosh Baruch Hu answered him, this is too difficult for you. You can't understand it. If it's too difficult for Moshe Rabbeinu, so Yeshua ben Levi is asking it. He thinks he's better than Moshe Rabbeinu? The answer is, at the time that Yeshua ben Levi lived, it was the Roman oppression. Their people were leaving Eretz Yisrael. It was too oppressive. They had to run to Babel to get away from the Roman. They kept it up from the time of the Churban and Bias. It was getting worse and worse. So the people in Eretz Yisrael were leaving, and he asked, "We can't handle it anymore. I have to know." So he felt for his generation he had to know. Maybe Rosh Rabbeinu didn't have to know, but I have to know. That was Yeshua ben Levi's taina. So Kadosh Baruch Hu granted him that he could meet Eliyahu Navi. So Eliyahu Navi came to him, and he realized this is a heaven-sent opportunity. And he asked Eliyahu Navi, "I want to accompany you and see. You're doing shlichus of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. I want to see what's happening. How do you do your shlichus in this world?" So Eliyahu Navi agreed on one condition. If you travel with me, you'll see many things that will get you upset. You're not going to be able to handle it. You won't accept what you're seeing. But you have to promise me you won't bother me with any questions. As soon as you ask me a question why I'm doing what I'm doing, we part. It's over. Yeshua ben Levi agreed. So they started walking, and towards the evening they got to there was a shack in the forest, an old shack, and there was a cow grazing peacefully in front of the shack. And they approached the shack, and there was an old man and his aged wife, the Yidden. They came out to greet him, and they acted as if they were aniyim. They needed a place to stay. They needed a little bit of food. They brought him in. They tried to make them as comfortable as possible. They didn't have anything, but whatever they had, they shared with them. The meager supper they shared with the two strangers. They gave them a little place in the house. It was warm in the house from the wood stove. So they woke up and they prepared to continue on their journey. And they said, it's time for Shacharis. So Eliyahu got up and he started praying. And Yeshua ben Levi overheard him that Eliyahu Navi was davening to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he should cause the cow to die. Make the cow die. This is the only source, their only source of livelihood. He's killing the cow now, after they did such chesed for us. How could that be? But he told me, don't ask questions. So they got a little further down the road, and then they heard the woman cry out, "Oh, our cow died! Our cow died! How are we going to live? It's our source of parnasa." Yeshua ben Levi couldn't contain himself, but he remembered the promise, kept silent. Towards the evening, that night, they got to a beautiful mansion. Knocked on the door. No answer. Oh, maybe they didn't hear us. So they opened and they peeked in, and they walked into the foyer, and they saw in the dining room, they saw the man and his wife sitting there at a delicious supper, a 5-course meal, wonderful. It was a dinner, fit for a king. And they had a luxuriously furnished dining room. The house was beautifully furnished with the fancy dishes, the finest china, silver tableware, and they had servants attending to all the needs of this couple. And the master of the house saw them, and he was angry. Who let these vagabonds in? Who let these schnorrers in? We have to make sure the door is locked so we don't have any more schnorrers in the house. Now, he was a mean type of person, but today he was especially mean. He had a wall that was crumbling, and he hired some workers to come and fix the wall, and they didn't show up. So he was upset about the workers that didn't show up. So they asked these two guests. They asked permission. They want to spend a night in the house, and it's cold outside, and they have nothing to eat. So he was, all right. Go into the backyard. He gave them. They were able to sleep on 2 stone benches over there in the backyard. He sent some bread and water out to them, and that was it. Okay. So they went to sleep. They woke up in the morning. Came time to daven. And Yeshua ben Levi listened very carefully to what Eliyahu was davening. And he was davening that a Kodesh Baruch Hu should perform a miracle, and the wall should fix itself and be as solid as it was before. And he would watch as the wall stood up straight, all the bricks fell into place, and it became a solid brick wall again.
Rabbi, you want to start davening?
No, I don't think he wants to. Hear the end of the
You
He doesn't want it.
They kept on walking.
I'll play the account.
So they saw a shul. It was a beautiful shul, a luxurious shul, with ornaments all over the place. They walked in, and it was packed shul for Ma'ariv, but everybody had their own seat. Everybody had bought their seat. It's their seat. And everybody was makbid. Nobody sits in my seat. So they weren't allowed to sit in any seat. They had to go all the way to the back of the shul and find some corner somewhere they could daven Ma'ariv.
Next to the bathroom.
Yeah. And nobody offered anything. Nobody offered them a place to stay. Nobody offered them any food. So the Gabbai had Rachmanis on me. He went around collecting. He got a few pennies, and they got them some bread and water, hardly anything to eat. Allowed them to sleep on the benches in the back of the shul. That's it. But nobody gave them any hospitality. Next morning, they came Shacharis, and Yeshua ben Levi heard Eliyahu Navi davening. May it be His will that all all you people should be leaders and important people. Everybody should be a leader. Reb Yeshua ben Levi was incensed. He gave them a wonderful bracha for these people who were misers. He kept his mouth shut. Next day, sun is setting. They got to a different shul, and they found a shul. It was an old shul, and they walked in, and people came, and everybody came over to them. Where are you staying tonight? They started fighting over where they're going to stay, and somebody brought them in to somebody's house and gave them to eat, and everybody chipped in and gave them money to buy food for the derech. Next morning, they wake up, and Eliyahu Navi says, "May it be His will that you are granted only one leader." The opposite of what he davened in the other shul. Shubin Levi couldn't take it anymore. That's it. I can't handle it. I can't watch it. It's a Purim spiel. This is a Purim spiel. Everything's nahapachu. What are you doing? Good people, you daven bad. Bad people, you daven good. What's happening? Eliyahu Navi says, you broke our agreement. Since you broke our agreement, we have to part our ways. But I will grant you to understand what I had done. That woman and husband that we had invited us in, the poor in the shack, in the broken down shack, I knew that there was a gzeira on her from a Kodesh Baruch Hu that she was supposed to die the next day. It would have totally demolished the husband, that he's losing his wife. So I davened that the husband should not suffer, and Kodesh Baruch Hu should take the cow instead. And they're going to be impoverished because they don't have parnasa. But ani nechshav kamei, so it's as if she died. So therefore, that saved the woman. Be'ez Hashem, she's a diligent woman, and they'll get back on their feet again, and she'll bring them the fact that they have shalom bayis. They're going to bring them wealth. They won't even miss the cow in a couple of years. The wealthy owner of the mansion didn't know that underneath this wall was a treasure. If he would have hired the workers to fix the wall, he would have found the treasure, and he would have become so wealthy, he would have been the most wealthy person in the whole state.
Where's the hammer?
So I davened that the wall should fix itself, and nobody should ever find that treasure. And anyway, in a couple of years, the wall's going to fall down, but by then he's going to have so many sorrows, he's not going to have time to think about fixing the wall. When I got in this shul, there was a wealthy shul, and they didn't give us the time of day, and they didn't look at us. They're all misers, so I gave them a wonderful bracha. They should all be leaders. That is guaranteed to cause strife in the shul. When everybody thinks he's the boss, in the shul where everybody thinks he's the boss and he's the leader, so everybody's fighting over, I'm better than you, and I know what to say, and I'm the day Zugger, and so that only, it's the end of the shul. And the other shul, they were so nice to us, they should have one leader. If you have only one person in charge, then you know, then that there's going to be hatzlacha in that shul. That's the hatzlacha of the shul. So we see that many times what we look as bad is really the best thing. The woman, she lost her cow. It was the best thing for her. It saved her life. You don't remember. I remember with Asa. Asa, he had a Peugeot. He used to drive, a friend of mine, he was the Rosh Yeshiva's driver, Rosh Steinberg's driver. And he bought a very beautiful car, comfortable, especially for the Rosh Yeshiva. And one time it was stolen. And he didn't have insurance.
Right.
It was terrible. It was terrible. He was beside himself. How was he going to get a car for Rav Steinberg? His whole idea to have a car for Rav Steinberg is for Rav Steinberg, not for himself. And I heard him say, Kodesh Baruch Hu took away the car, and not my daughter, Chevy. Chevy was granted a few.
Steinberg said this, or Asa?
Asa said it. Asa said it.
He had a sick daughter.
He had a sick daughter, Chevy. She lived a few more years. She was supposed to die. He looked at it. She was supposed to die. She did eventually pass away.
Story of the neighborhood of what's his name, why she stabbed him in the changeover.
Oh, yeah, Moshe Rubin.
It's a crazy story. Found out the story that there was a story that There was a
Money changer.
he was a money changer. A Russian guy came in, wanted to change money,
Ukrainian or something maybe.
and the door was opened, an inch open, and he was able to get into the back, into the door. He started stabbing him. He pressed the button, emergency button, so the door automatically locks itself inside, and it locked him inside with the Russian guy. And the Russian guy stabbed him 30 times. And police came, they couldn't break into the door. And the fire engine came in, couldn't break into the door. It took them half an hour to break into the place.
The office, yeah.
The office. They stopped the Russian guy, took him to the hospital,
Took Moshe to the hospital.
and they were sure he's dead. You know, it was like 30 stabbed, and he survived. And the doctors told him afterwards, we found that you have the orek rashi that was 95% clogged. How do you say it in English?
Artery.
Main artery.
Main artery was 95% clogged. If you wouldn't have came to the hospital, you could have died from
A heart attack.
had a heart attack. So, and this prevented you from dying from the stabbing because it was blocked. So, the
Bert?
stabbing basically.
Bergen-Belsen. We see many, many times that there's incidents happen that it looks like the worst thing, but it's really the best thing. There's amazing Misa that I heard of Bergen-Belsen. The war was winding down. The Allies were hot on the tails. Were closing in on the Nazis. Now Bergen-Belsen, it wasn't exactly it wasn't a concentration camp with gas chambers, but it was a work camp. It was forced labor, and the people were starved. It was terrible. And this is when the war was winding down. So then they started the forced marches. They marched to Jews miles and miles and miles in the middle of winter. People were dying, and all of a sudden the population of Bergen-Belsen tripled. Bergen-Belsen, it tripled in a few weeks. And as bad as it was until then, it was triple now. There was hunger. There wasn't enough food. People were sick. They were dying on the floor. But everybody knew, they heard that the British were coming and the Nazis were getting scared. Now, Bergen-Belsen was, it says, divided into several different camps. And one of them, besides the Jews, they had Russian prisoners of war. One day, the Nazis came into the camp and they said, we know that in another few days the British are going to arrive here. We want you to tell them all the good things that we did for you. So we have decided we're bringing you fresh rolls. And they had baskets and sacks of fresh rolls. Everybody line up. Everybody gets one roll. Everybody lines up. So the fellow said the story. He hadn't had a fresh piece of bread in 5 years. All he was thinking about the whole day was food. If you would ask him, what do you want now, to be free or get a piece of bread? He'll say, I'll take the bread. I'll take the fresh roll. All his mind can think of is food. So he got in line, and he saw there are not too many rolls there. No, maybe I'm not going to get a roll. Maybe there's not enough for me. As he got closer, his heart is pounding. He broke out into a sweat. Maybe I'm not going to get a roll. Maybe I'm not going to get a roll. And then he saw that there are 7 rolls in the basket, and there were 6 people in front of him. Oh, Baruch Hashem, I'm going to get a roll. I'm going to get a roll. So he got his roll. And as he got to the end of the line where he was able to get his roll, he saw 3 more bags of rolls. Oh, there's plenty of rolls. So he takes his roll, and then he gets a juke in his head. He gets an idea in his head. Let me get back in line and get a second one. So he hid the roll under his pajamas, under his shirt. Get back in line, and he's waiting, right? And he gets to the front of the line. Next. And he gets a roll. He gets a second roll, and he's looking at it. And he's looking at it. Wow. I can't wait. I can't wait. And then all of a sudden he feels claws on his shoulder. And he turns around, there's a big Russian guy, soldier, holding on to him. I saw that Jew. Give me the second roll. So he's thinking, he's a prisoner like I am. Why should he get the roll and not me? He says, who do you think you are, taking the roll from me? Oh, you're playing around, you Jew boy. So he calls over two of his friends, and they drag him into the barracks. It wasn't too hard to drag him into the barracks, because he was like, he was weak and emaciated, right? And the three Russians, they pounded him to a pulp, right? And they took away both rolls. So here he is, he's laying on the floor. He feels like he's dying. He'd just been beat up, and now he lost his two rolls. Shem, why have you done this? And the British are coming any day now. We're about to be free, and now I'm going to die because they beat me up. And Mom is crying out to Hashem, why have you done this to me? And then he fell asleep. He fell asleep from exhaustion. Next morning he woke up, and the sun is shining. The sun is shining. We never wake up when the sun is shining. The Nazis always wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I haven't seen the sun shining when I wake up in 5 years. Every time I wake up, it's dark outside. The Nazis made sure you woke up. And if you didn't wake up, they were exhausted from they didn't get enough sleep, and they were tired and exhausted from and not enough food, emaciated and famished. But if you didn't get up, that was the last time you didn't get up. The Nazis made sure of it, so everybody had to get up. And here it is, broad daylight. So he sits up. Why is it so quiet? Where is everybody? What's happening? And he looks around, he stands up, he looks around, he sees people, he thinks they look like they're sleeping. And he walks through the camp, and he sees dead bodies all over the place. And a lot of them, they're still holding the roll. The rolls were poisoned. The rolls were poisoned. I verified this story that they poisoned the rolls at the end. From another inmate at the camp, wrote it down. The fact that he was beat up by the Russians was the thing that saved him. Called the Ovid Rahman L'Tav Ovid. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Whatever Hashem does, called the Ovid Rahman, and everything that Hashem does is for the good. Hashem is Midas Harachamim, and Elokim is Midas Hadin. Midas Hadin is Midas Harachamim, and it's Hashem Echad. And this should give us the insight to understand when things happen that look like they're terrible calamities, trust in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Whatever He's doing is for the good.